This is the Friday, June 26th, 2015 version of the Market Plus segment. Joining us now is Darin Newsom. Darin, welcome back.
Thank you, Mike.
Now, on the program, we didn't have a chance to discuss the cotton market, which also jumped in the rally with the rest of row crop agriculture, up almost $4. Selling opportunity, or do you wait and let this thing run?
I think you wait. I mean, the buying this week came from the commercial side. We saw the March spread just take off and rocket higher. So that means there's a lot of concern over the crop, the U.S. crop, due to the weather. So I think I sit back. I want to see how this market's finally broken out of a long sideways trend. So let's give it some room in here and see if it can't continue to push higher.
Any thoughts on how much higher? $4 this week. Could we see a repeat of that next week? Is there enough strength in the cotton market in general?
I think there is. I mean, again, it's going to come down to how long the commercial side continues to push it this way. Maybe $4 could be overshooting ourselves a little bit next week. It's not out of the question. I would certainly think $2, $3 next week is very possible, given that we close near our week highs this week. So I think there is a possibility for a solid rally next week, possibly replicating what we saw this.
Okay. Now, on the program, I did not let you finish your discussion on new crop soybeans. And specifically, I did not get to ask you how high these new crop beans could go based on what you're looking at.
It's a really interesting question, because if I were to look at a fundamental table and make this argument, there's no way in the world it can be made. But to me, I know we saw beans cross $10 today. Can they go higher? Yeah, $10.50, $10.60, $11. Absolutely, because of the technical patterns that we're seeing. If it can continue to go and be pushed by, again, just as we talked about with cotton, by the commercial side, which we're seeing the Jan-March spread almost go into an inverse at a time when, again, like I mentioned in the program, we're supposed to have all this production, all these acres, so on and so forth. Demand's supposed to come down. We're not going to be shipping as much to China, so on, all these things. Yet the spreads are telling us this thing's getting more bullish by the week. So I think we could break free. I think we'll move through the 10. I think we'll keep going from there. Its next target is somewhere in the 1060 range, if I recall. Beyond that, you get up into the low 11s. I'm not saying next week at this time or next month at this time we're going to see beans that high, but I think it's a possibility that we're making a run.
Is it pre-harvest? Should growers hold out before the combines start rolling to sell some $11 beans?
Selling $11 beans before harvest. I don't know that that's going to happen.
Okay.
But I wouldn't be afraid of sitting back and waiting on it to move. So harvest doesn't bother me.
Okay.
We've seen the markets rally many times during harvest, and I think this could be one of those years.
All right. Well, now, flip side of the question, looking at the corn market, we've got a question here from Jay, who's on Twitter, livestock producer, and Jay is looking for feed needs. His question is, need to buy corn for owned livestock. Should I lock in needs until new crop hits the market or ride it out?
Again, it's a great question, because I know a lot of feeders have been sitting back waiting. They've been taking this cheap they've been taking advantage of this cheap corn market, and particularly on the cash side. Well, this week we had a breakout, and usually when you get a signal of a breakout, particularly on a weekly or monthly chart, it's time to make a move. So we saw it on the weekly chart. The stage is set for a breakout on the monthly chart as well. So it looks like, from a technical point of view, and again, fundamental analysts are probably just screaming at their televisions or their computers at this point. Technically, yes, I would say this is the point when you're going to want to start getting some coverage on. Fundamentally, again, we've got all this corn supposedly coming to town before harvest. We're going to have this huge crop again. So why be in a hurry? Because the market's telling us this is what you need to do.
How far out are you willing to buy as a livestock producer?
If I'm looking at long-term patterns, the uptrend that we're in now that started last October should run through, say, spring 2017. Does that mean I want to lock in all my corn through 2017? I don't have that big of a checkbook, but I would have some coverage that I could extend through most of this uptrend. I think we're going to want some long-term coverage on for cash corn. I'd certainly want to have it on for 15, most of 16, and then see where we are.
And see if you've got the big checkbook, though, you'd be buying out to 2017.
I would say, you'd almost have to make, a true technician would make the argument that then, you're going to have to wait even once the downtrend starts to get back to this level. So you'd probably be looking at 2018-19, so 4 or 5 years down the road. That's a ridiculous argument to make right now, but I would certainly be looking out to say through harvest of 16 or something along that line.
And so all the viewers who have maybe one steer they finish a year maybe should go ahead and buy it out that far.
It's been so cheap. It could, really, if we look at it logically, the way it could go is get more expensive. So.
Okay. Well, now we've got a question here talking about cheap corn as we head into harvest. Todd in Martell, Nebraska is curious, with the variance of corn development, we've had very, very wet weather. Will storage issues pressure the market here end of summer into harvest time?
It is really a great question. And, it's one of those that I could actually argue both ways. I guess I should have been an attorney. I could argue this both ways. From not having a problem, I think if we have this type of variance, it's going to give producers more time to move what's in store through the system. So that's going to keep a better flow up until the point where you just shut the gates. On the other end of the spectrum, you might hold it too long. All of a sudden everything gets ready at the same time, or everything's being harvested, whatever it might be, and you start to get all this coming together, say mid-October, or early to mid-October. And then all of a sudden, yes, you could have a later season rather than having it occur in August. You could have a later season back up in, or problem with storage. So, I could argue it either way. Probably my initial thought is it's not going to cause a big problem, but we've all seen it happen before, so it is a possibility.
Okay. All right, now we've got a question here before we let you go. Glenn in Bryan, Ohio is curious. Glenn's wondering, with all of the rain throughout the Midwest, can a black swan technically drown from too much fundamental news?
It's one of the best questions I've heard. Can a black swan, an unforeseen event, actually drown from too much fundamental news? I think anything bad can happen with too much fundamental news from a technical point of view. So I would answer yes, I think it could.
All right. Well, Darin, thanks for taking the time to join us this week.
Thanks again, Mike.
Thanks to all of you for sending in your questions via Facebook and Twitter. Please continue to do it, and we will get expert analysis right to you. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.